The excerpt below is sourced from Peake's commentary on the Bible. John the Baptist, however, an ascetic in both dress and habit of life, spoke with a ring of authority like that of the old prophets of Israel. It seems clear that John had no developed theological or ethical message to present to his people. At best, he was merely a voice crying in the wilderness who exemplified the spirit of Elijah, the prophet whose coming again was anticipated in popular belief before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Malachi 4:5, Mark 9:12. John was an apocalyptic figure, announcing the near approach of God's judgment on men's sins and proclaiming a baptism of repentance unto remission of sins in preparation therefor. The baptism by John in running water was an apocalyptic sacrament that to his mind symbolized the genuine baptism in the stream of fire issuing from the throne of God, which the coming one proclaimed by him would administer. See Carl H. Kraeling, John the Baptist, 1951, 118-122. John never applied the term Messiah to the coming one whom he announced. This coming one was to act as judge of men, sorting out the chaff from the wheat on the threshing floor of judgment in his time. And the figure who most nearly fits this description is that, not of the Messiah as popularly conceived, but rather of the Son of Man of 1 Enoch 37-71, who comes for judgment rather than for the salvation of the people of God.
The phrase Son of Man has been a source of significant debate among scholars, particularly regarding whether Jesus used it to refer to himself or to someone else. Here are some reasons why certain scholars argue that the Son of Man in Jesus' parables and teachings could refer to someone other than Jesus himself. 1. Third-person language. In many instances, Jesus speaks about the Son of Man in the third person, rather than directly identifying himself with the title. This detachment can suggest he is speaking of another figure. For example, in passages like Matthew 24, verses 27-30, Jesus describes the coming of the Son of Man with great power and glory, which some interpret as a future figure distinct from himself. 2. Jewish apocalyptic tradition. The term Son of Man has roots in Jewish apocalyptic literature, particularly in the book of Daniel 7, verse 13-14, where one like a Son of Man appears as a heavenly figure given dominion and authority by God. In this context, the Son of Man is seen as a messianic or eschatological figure who plays a central role in God's final judgment and the establishment of God's kingdom. Some scholars argue that Jesus may have been referring to this separate messianic or eschatological figure rather than to himself. 3. Jesus' use of the term. Jesus often used the Son of Man title in ambiguous or enigmatic ways, which may reflect his intention to describe a transcendent figure rather than himself. For example, in Mark 8, verse 38, Jesus speaks of the Son of Man coming in the glory of his Father with the holy angels, a portrayal that aligns with Jewish expectations of a messianic or eschatological figure. 4. Theological development in the Gospels. Some scholars suggest that the Gospel writers, particularly in the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, may have retroactively identified Jesus with the Son of Man figure to emphasize his role as the Messiah and Judge. In other words, the original sayings of Jesus might have referred to a different eschatological figure, but later Christian theology reinterpreted the phrase to apply to Jesus himself. 5. Differences in early Christian traditions. There is evidence of diverse interpretations of the Son of Man within early Christian communities. Some groups may have understood Jesus to be pointing to an external figure who would fulfill apocalyptic roles, while others equated Jesus directly with the Son of Man. This diversity reflects the theological fluidity of the term in the first century. 6. Passages suggesting distinction. In passages like Luke 12, verses 8-9, Jesus states that the Son of Man will acknowledge before the angels of God those who acknowledge him. This phrasing could imply a distinction between Jesus and the Son of Man, as Jesus refers to someone else who will perform this act. Conclusion. The debate hinges on whether Jesus' use of the term was self-referential or pointed to an external divine figure. Scholars who argue for a distinction highlight the third-person language, Jewish apocalyptic background, and potential theological developments in the Gospels. This ambiguity leaves room for varied interpretations of one of the most complex and debated aspects of Jesus' teachings.